Hello, this is Zoltan with ARCHLine. Every year we come up with great features to make sure that you can get the best out of our BIM software. So what do we have in the new 2018 version, you say? Let's take a look at some of the great new features. Point clouds. ARCHLine now imports certain point cloud formats. Bring in the output of your laser scanner to have real-world context in your design. Teamwork. ARCHLine allows multiple team members to work on the very same project at the same time. This makes collaboration with your co-designers a breeze. Dynamic drawing comparison. Speaking of collaboration, you are now able to compare the current drawings with a previous phase and display changes visually. This gives you a better review of how the project goes along. BIM libraries. ARCHLine is your gateway to BIM. It now connects to external BIM object libraries. Load real-world building parts into your model to make your design even more accurate. New wall binding and wall layering options. Wall components and wall layers can now be bound to the levels where they belong. This makes the accurate design of detailed buildings easy. Also, there are now new level parameters which you can bound to the stories. This means that if the floor height is ever changed, all elements of the floors will comply with the change automatically. Thermal insulation. You can now add new layers of insulation to existing walls with just a few clicks. This handy tool helps you to do thermal insulation projects on existing buildings. Lighting 3D text. Do you want to make your design even more eye-catching? Use your Lighting 3D letterings. Just type your text, set its color and brightness, and you are ready to impress your clients. ARCHLine 2018 has its best feature set ever. Visit our website to look at the whole list, and don't forget to download a free trial today. Hello and welcome to the ARCHLine webinar Feature Highlights 2018. My name is Zoltán Tóth. Today I'm joined by my colleague, Mr. Illés Pap.
Hi there.
What you have seen just seconds ago was a short sneak peek into some of the new features what we are having in the 2018 version. Today we have this session to go a little bit deeper and investigate some of these features a little bit further.
Yeah.
Just to mention what we are going to talk about today, first of all, we talk about the interface, because everything starts with how you are handling a software.
Yeah.
And after that, we talk about the live building elements and how they are connected, how they live together within ARCHLine. After that, dynamic drawing comparison, a very good tool for collaboration, is going to be scrutinized. And we also talk about a very important topic, and that is point clouds, how to use point cloud formats in your software. Also, Lighting 3D text would be something we talk about. That's more for interior design, and the new content libraries within the software. Now, as always, you are able to comment on the right-hand side of this video, so you can ask your questions for the whole duration of the show. At the end, we are going to look at them in detail, and don't forget that this recording is going to be available after this show, so you can log in and watch it again if you want. And now I'm going to give the word over to my colleague Illés, who is going to start with the first part, and that is going to be introduction to the user interface.
Hi there. So I'm going to show you first how the interface looks like in general, and I would like to also highlight things that are very useful and handy if you would like to further improve your workflow in ARCHLine.XP. Now, what you can see is the generic interface of ARCHLine. This is what you will see once you already have anything created in the 2D or in the 3D. You always have this split screen where you will see the 2D and the 3D content parallel, and you can follow the changes easily. Well, this is not the only way you can work. Actually, you can also turn on the full screen view, which you can easily achieve by this button. And in that case, you can work in a one document mode, but you still have all the documents behind. But you will be able to focus on one drawing only. And in that case, you can use this project navigator, which can be found in the right-hand side. And the project navigator is by default hidden, so if you move your mouse somewhere else, you won't see that. But actually, anytime if you would like to use it continuously, you can just spin it over there.
Yes.
And it stays over there. I think one of the most important thing on the interface, what you will realize once you start to work, is that we have a nice ribbon bar with all the titles here, which help you to find which topic you would like to find your command in, like drafting, interior design, or building tools, also the dimension and documentation. And if you look for program details or for example about licensing information, you will find this handy menu here at the right hand side for the video tutorials and also online support if you have purchased that option, and also the about dialog. So everything else will be here at the right hand side.
How do I look for a very specific command that I need to use?
Well, actually, you can find the commands easily in these groups, but if you forgot, but you actually remember that there was something called 3D text, for example, or luminous text in our case, you just click there in the search field and you type, let's say, luminous, and let's see what we find, and the software tells you where the command is. So you can easily find in, actually you can click here and you can start the command if you want, but you can see that it's in interior, in lighting, and luminous text. So I can find interior lighting and there's the luminous text.
What are the shortcut options? So how could I get a quick access to something that I use very often? Because some of you might use features which might be hidden under 2 or 3 menu bars. So what's the way to sort of make them prioritized?
Well, actually, the software, just as any other Windows software, comes with built-in shortcuts as well, like Control P, letter P for printing, or Control S for saving, and Control C for copy. But if you would like to create anything customized, like for example, I would like to use the luminous text many times, and I don't want to find it all the time. So I just right click here. Instead of starting the command, which I can do with the left click, I just right click here, and from this local menu I choose keyboard shortcut, and then I can define a keyboard shortcut for luminous text, which I can see that now there is nothing defined, but let's say I will use a Control-Shift-L like for luminous text and modify keyboard shortcut, and if the keyboard shortcut was not already used by any other commands, then I get no prompt message or something like that. I just hit OK, and then with Control-Shift-L I can start the command in the 2D window.
I guess defining your own shortcuts might be very handy for those who have been using other CAD software, and they are used for other conventions. They could just sort of import their habits.
Yeah.
Tell us about the quick access toolbar. Because that's something what I really like in this setup.
Yeah, well, that's also very handy. In kind of old interfaces, you had these things called toolbars, which is now with this ribbon interface is customizable with this quick access toolbar, which contains tools that are most commonly used by default, but you can add tools here. Like there is a command that you like is in the dimension, measure, and distance. See, this already has a keyboard shortcut actually. But if you would like to add it here to be easily find it, then you just again right click there and use the add to quick access toolbar, and in that case it jumps there and you can just use it just as any other tools here.
Very handy.
Yeah.
Now, what happens if I look at some of the features here? Let's say I'm browsing the building toolbar and I'm not really sure how I could use a certain element, let's say a slab. So that's actually what will happen in that case. So what happens is that this tooltip comes up, and what is this?
This is a kind of short help. Again, let me go back to this luminous text, which I already show you before. If you hover your mouse over a tool which has a description, which we call the quick tooltip, it will actually describe the use of the command, how you can use it, the proper order, how you can use it, or some description at least if the feature is too much complex to be able to describe it in 5 steps or something like that. You will at least find some information what this tool is and how to start with that. So that's how you will be started in that case.
It's very handy. It's very handy.
Yeah.
So that actually summarizes some of the things. But if you look out for, the design process might be sped up, because at least you don't have to look for the elements that much that you would be using.
Yeah.
Now, another thing what we are going to talk about during this session is actually the living building elements and how they are connected to each other. So can you tell us a couple of words about what these actually live building elements mean?
If you would not have live building elements, that would mean that anything that is changing in the project, which happens many times, you would have to update manually. which I will show you here. In this example is actually for that. For example, we have this project coordination meeting, and we figured out that something, for example, the height of the ground floor completely changed. I don't know, 45 centimeters taller, or anything else changed. In that case, if I change that, I can do that going to the floor management button here. And there I can find all my floors, excuse me. And there you can find the height, which you can easily change. Now, if I tell the software to change the height 45 centimeters taller, and I say okay, it automatically updates the structures as well, because these structures are living with the project, and they are actually anchored to the top and bottom point.
So they're actually being pulled by the, in this case, it's being pulled by the by the level above the structure. Okay.
Yeah, I think if I turn this around, I can actually demonstrate how that works, because I prepared an item for better understanding how this works. This item is half bound. That means, as you can see, it's bound to the bottom. It's already built as it should be. It already has the proper insertion, but at the top it did not follow the change. So what's the difference between this item and this item? The difference here is that if you select this item, at the left hand side, where it tells you that the height is a certain value, well, that's the difference. If you type a value, it will stick to that value, and it will use that value because you define that value. It must be 2.8 because it cannot be changed.
Yes.
That's how you design. But if you would like to bound it instead of set the connection to another structure, in that case you go here and say edit this, and you find the top bound and bottom bound. In case I would like to bound it to the bottom of the structure of the following level, here I just find the bottom of structure option. See, it's already the current +1, so the one story above us, that's the receiving story. You can also set up an offset. In some certain cases it will be necessary, but not now. I just say okay, and it's automatically updated. So
it links up all.
Yeah, and if I refresh the 3D to fix this connection here, you can actually see also the connection is done.
I see.
That's also something very nice, that if there's a priority order in the structure. So actually in this case, as you can see, the slab is the weakest. So if something is penetrating this slab, it will remove the necessary parts from the slab. So
can you set up the priority?
That's actually some sort of hardwired, but it also depends on your choice. So how you can work it. This is something similar. As you can see, the contour of the slab actually comes out here, but the solid of the slab is stopped here because the layers of the walls are going down, and so they make their space for themselves. So that's how that works. So another thing that I would like to show you is here. If there is some sort of change, like see, this is something that we call ledge. This longer value here that you can actually define layer by layer, I mean floor by floor. So if you go again back to the layer management from 2D, you will find these values. Each and every floor, they have their own setting here. You can actually change this from level to level. If I switch from basement to ground floor, you can see the values are changing. So if I say that, for example, here at the ground floor, I would like to change the ledge to, I don't know, 75, and I say okay, I update the structure, then it automatically jumps down. And this is a very small example, only with a few structure, but it works on a larger scale. I load another project.
Yeah, let's take a look at another actual example, so we could put this into context.
Yeah,
see how this
I have this project from one of our users, which we are very thankful again. This project is containing a full detached dwelling, and here I will make the same change. So now we have a ground floor plan, and the first floor and the flat roof and everything else. So again, here at the 2D, when we are on the ground floor, I go to the layer management, level management, and in the ground floor I change this value. I just use the same. And actually the reason to this here is because now again, the project coordination meeting, we figured out that this changed here, so we couldn't use this door. So if I make this change, go back here, Let's just change it to 345. Okay, so the whole structure jumps, as you can see, and so now everything is correct. So otherwise, if this would not be there for you, you will have to, I don't know, copy this information from wall to wall or somehow manually update the structures, but that's not necessary anymore if you set up the walls. And another important thing is that in this version of ARCHLine, the default structure, the default items that you can define, they are already set like this, so you don't have to start by setting these values for yourself. They will automatically bound themselves to the proper structure. But if you want, you can of course change, but otherwise they are automatically just like that.
You mentioned before that during the project meeting it might turn out that some of the things might be in need of modification, and we have been doing some modification ourselves on this very model. But what's the tool to track these kind of changes? So what's the method to track how your drawing progresses?
Okay. Yes, we have actually something called the drawing comparison. Mm-hmm. And the drawing comparison is if you have several versions or several alternatives, or simply you would like to compare the common or the current version of this project with the previous one, you can easily use this. This actually has 3 options. If you click here, you will find the first 2 options are working in project. So if you would like to, if you have several drawings in this same project, you can compare one to another and you will have a visual result. But now I will use another one which I like to use because I just tend to save projects in several versions in separate files, and this is what I have. I have a plan version 3. It's I don't know, a few months earlier version, and this is the current version. So I would like to compare the current drawing with a plan view of this project. Mm-hmm. And then I click there, and the software comes up with this dialog where I can actually set up how the differences will be colored. The differences from the first drawing, from the second drawing, and how
the unchanged items
will be the unchanged part represented. And an important thing is that sometimes you will change the representation of your projects from version to version, because you would like to have a 1:100 door scale, but later you changed your mind and you do that. If you would compare those 2 versions, you will have a lot of differences simply because of the 2D representation of the drawing. So you can make them equal in this level. You can say that the drawing settings should be equalized by setting the same wall fill pattern and the same opening scale. Here you can set it up. And once you are done with that, you just say, okay, the software compares the result, and now you have to place it somewhere. And the reason to that is that you can have multiple comparisons in a project, not just one. You can compare another drawing and place it here, and then another and place it there, and you can have a series of comparisons. And I think that this is very, very nice to have a visual clue that you can easily document the changes. But one thing that is most importantly interesting here is that you can follow the changes continuously.
Mm-hmm. So as they happen.
So let's say again we had the project coordination meeting and we found out that this is a small door. We must make it larger. I don't know, 100 centimeter wide. So this is something that must be obviously visualized here. So in that case, you just right click there and say refresh this comparison. And the software works a little and it compares it again, and you will see the difference coming up as it is.
I see that the door now is changed.
Yeah.
This refreshing command, am I right to say that all sections and all drawings need to be refreshed like that manually? So every time you have something taken from your 3D model and put into a 2D drawing, you have to manually refresh it to reflect the changes, right?
Yeah, well, actually, you can manually refresh them one by one. If you don't want to refresh one of these drawings, then you can just say, okay, refresh this and that. But if you would like to refresh all of them, you will find that command here.
I see. Question from my part. This is a floor plan, obviously, that doesn't reflect all the details of a building. So what happens if you want to have a comparison of different sections? Can you do that?
Well, actually, you can make a version of the section, of the original section, to be able to comparable like this. We have a tutorial about that, how you can turn the dynamic content
we put the link into
something that you can document. And then those drawings would be comparable like that. and you will have the series. This is something that you can print. You can also make a plot layout out of this. So yeah, it works the same.
That's very handy again. Now let's talk about again something very spectacular. We know that the concept of using survey data in your CAD is a very hot issue. It's very important to know how you can use the data that you gathered on site in your software. There are many different solutions for that. One of the approaches that I really like is these laser scanners, which are really out there, and these are, I would say, the most powerful ways to get data into your software. But now the problem is that how do you get the data into your software? Before I show you how that works, let's talk about laser scanning, because this might be a new topic for some of you. On the screen you see two examples for these laser scanners. These are basically gadgets on tripods which are turning on two axes basically.
You actually showed me one in live. We had this.
Yes, actually I did. So this gadget is turning around and shooting millions of laser dots around itself, and the software what's running in the gadget estimates how far the different points are in relation to this station, and then the end result is a so-called point cloud which you can read into different software products. Now, currently, ARCHLine is able to import two different point cloud formats. One is called E57, and that's an unprocessed point cloud. So that's basically what's coming straight from the machine. And the other one is an OBJ format, basically an object like a 3D model that has been processed. What I'm going to...
the first mostly looks like literally points in the 3D,
yes,
right?
that should look like, to be honest, it looks like a pile of mashed potatoes because it's an uneven surface, and that's an unprocessed the file, which you need to process somehow. Now, the example what I'm going to show now is a file that had been gathered by a device made by the US company Matterport. In fact, the file that I'm going to show you now was given to us by their courtesy. So
that will be the OBJ file.
That will be the OBJ file. So what we see now here is the OBJ file. So don't forget, this is not the file that comes from the laser scanner. This has been processed before. But since this is oh yes, that's a very different, very important point. Most laser scanners don't gather color data. Some of them are. But the reason I'm using this OBJ because this is already colored, so you see what's going on.
Pretty much colored, yeah.
Now, you can move around, so you can see that this is not a static background. This is actually a 3D space in which you can navigate. I set up some views so we can take a look around this loft apartment and see what's going on. You see that you see the 3D space and
what are these holes? Are there?
Oh, the holes are actually the things that the camera didn't see.
Okay,
so these are the things that were in a shadow. That's again. We are a software company, we are not hardware manufacturers, so we don't really know how these issues could be solved. But one problem currently with laser scanning, if I may say, is that if things are hidden, they are not going to be captured. Some software try to estimate how things look like behind objects. But again, I would say that there's still some development to be done.
This is still much better than me and my pencil and
that's
the paper.
Right. Another thing, what is still an issue with these gadgets is that you have to manually pick them up, move them somewhere else. So they are not going to do the legwork on your behalf.
Yeah, of course.
But back to softwares, because that's what we know about. So let me go back to this view where I can actually see this doorway, and let's see how I can actually use this data. Because one very important thing I have to know here is that currently ARCHLine is able to recognize the corner points, but it's not making any distinction between walls and columns. So you are not able to generate a BIM data from this very model. However, you can...
And of course you cannot remove parts of this model.
You cannot remove parts at this point. What you can do on the other hand is you are able to extend your model with ARCHLine elements. So, for instance, you can add an extra wall here, and by clicking on this wall, you can modify its height, and when I modify the height, I recognize other points here. So, I would say that this speeds up my work a little bit. So, if I want to add extra elements to this very building, I can do that. Now, I know for a fact that we have a very similar color in our color library. Let me just...
rusty gray, yeah.
I think it's rusty gray. I think that should look good. Some might argue that that's the best choice, but then again, that's
actually you can create your own colors.
Yes, you can create, and you can download your own colors into the software.
Yeah.
Now, also you can see in the 2D that the ARCHLine wall appears. So let me just So you see that now this element is on ARCHLine wall while the rest is not. So that's actually the background. That's right. Let me put in a door here. I just first have to activate the 3D window. Now it's easier to work here. Okay, I added a door here. I'm not completely satisfied with the opening direction. I'm just going to modify that quickly. And by opening the door, I see a very important thing that I can actually look through the window, the door. So if I open it, I can look through. Again, I would say that this is a good method to get a background for your survey. Again, we also import the E57. That's a little bit less spectacular because it's not a colorful image such as we see here. But again, that's another way to get data into your software to sort of work with real life environmental features.
Actually, if there is only a few things that you would like to visualize, then it's much faster than remodel the whole thing. Yeah.
Yes, and that again takes us a little bit closer, I would say, to virtual staging, which is again another industry which is very keen on using software and hardware products. It's just something to look out for. Now, we talked about this kind of visualization, and there's a very, I would say, spectacular tool what we just finished developing, and that is lighting text. So that's again something that we should talk about. What are these?
For that, again, I have a project. Let me quickly load that project. This is something that you will find also in tutorials, this project. The project itself will be very simple for now. I will make quick sketch renders out of it, so no final renders now, but some sketch renders you will see, because as I will demonstrate, it's a very fast and handy tool to add lighting text. So actually, it's actually an option. It could be lighting, but it's not necessarily a lighting text. This tool, actually, you can find at the same place I show you how the command shortcuts work. I will add a text here. The interior now is very simple. Let me just quickly create a render before we do all this thing. Here you can see the whole thing. I think the settings are just fine. You will see there's a bunch of spotlights at the ceiling, and when I will add the 3D text, it will appear here as a glowing 3D text. So the 3D text is here in interior. You will find it in lighting and luminous text, as we just demonstrated earlier. So you just use this tool. You type the text. Let's say this will be inspire. Okay.
Catchy.
Yeah, and you just literally select any of these surfaces where you would like to paste your 3D text. It could be a glass surface. It could be anything here. You just select that, and then you can place the starting point of your text, which in my case, I think it will be, let's make it a little bit asymmetric. And then you can set up the angle of that text. You can actually...
Or you can type in the value, I guess.
Yeah, you can type the value. And here you can set up the depth of this text, how much it will be elevated from the surface. And then you will be able to set up all the rest of the settings. You just simply say, okay, in that case you will have a 3D text without light. But if you would like to change the extrusion height, you can retype the text, you can change the font type, and also you can actually set up font styles, and then you can work with those. Or you can go here and you can enable lighting. You can also make this whole text glowing with all of its surfaces, or you can just turn the front surface glowing on.
Okay, that'd be my
makes
question.
Difference, yeah, in certain situations. And here you can set up the color of this glowing text. So if you say, okay, that's how I like it, okay, then I have this text, which I can demonstrate only on rendering, where you can see there's a little tint on the ceiling of this glowing text. If I increase the light strength, the light
can I just ask, did you just refresh the render, or what happened here?
This is automatically refreshing. This is what we call real-time draft render. It's not a final render. As you can see, it will be always a little bit grainy, but it will give you results literally in seconds.
So you don't have to manually...
Yeah, it's like a work render. At the end, if you would like to create final renders, you will be able, you just go here and say, okay, let's make exterior, interior, or any sort of other renders with all the other settings. But now this is for working. You continuously instruct the software to re-render, update all my changes, whatever I do, just show me the changes. This is a very handy tool to set up lights and the materials. Also, if I would like to somehow highlight that this is how much it's glowing, I can actually just go back. I didn't close the rendering, it's still running in the background. I just select this and say disable the lights on the ceiling, and then when I'm going back, you will see that actually these posters are also glowing, and this here is more, how to say, highlighted, because there's no surrounding light.
I see. That's for.
And at the end, of course, you can create real renders out of it by just simply turning the visual style.
Very spectacular for interior design, especially for advertisement and things like that. Now, another thing that we shouldn't stop talking about regarding this 2018 version is object libraries. That's something that we have demonstrated before. We had numerous shows in the past on how to bring in elements from the 3D warehouse or BIM object library, but we never actually gave you a list of platforms we are actually connecting to. So that's a problem that we are going to amend. But before that, I think Iles wants to show us something.
Well, actually, I wanted to show you that here, as you can see, this is an empty interior. You can fill it up with details, and as you can see in this final render, you can download other items, or you can visit these libraries to fill it up with content. And then I think you have some graphics about this.
Yes, actually I do. So we just made a chart to show you the connection that we currently have to certain object libraries.
Yeah.
Let's start from almost the top. BIM object, you have already seen that I read just the other day that they have now more than 660,000 registered users.
Oh,
they just surpassed this number, and that means that this is definitely getting out there. Even if you are not working on BIM models, or if you're not an architect, it's still worth to investigate this content library, because it gets relevant data. 3D warehouse, you already know this one. This is the largest depository of user-generated 3D models. Synchronia, what is this?
Well, Synchronia is mostly about architectural items. It works in a quite similar fashion as a 3D warehouse and in BIM object. You can go there, type in the search terms, and whatever you find, you just click there. It's one-click download, it's already in your project, and you can place it wherever you wish. And this comes many times with not just the geometric data, but also with BIM data, as far as I call. Yeah.
Next one is Cadenas, a company based in Germany. They have a very large BIM and CAD library, but they're also focusing on mechanical things such as pipes and joints. It's a very, very good depository, and
MEP items.
That's right. We connect to them as well. Next one is a sanitary library, where do you know anything about this?
Well, this is also for manufacturers. For this is not built into the software. You need to download a free plugin. But once you download that plugin, you can extend your libraries with other manufacturers' database, and again, from that point on, it works as the same. You just search for an item, and you can just bring it in and use it as another 3D item.
Last icon on the list is our own showroom. This needs a bit clarification. We try our best to have up-to-date elements in the showroom. It's worth to take a look at what we have in there, because you might find very interesting data, materials, and objects, right?
And in terms of how many types of things you can find there, it's also different from the others, because in our own library you will not only find objects, but you will also find materials and other type of items, profiles, cross-section profiles, for example, and other useful things which you might not be able to find in other databases. So that's also a big difference. That's actually why we have these many connections, and just as we explained in previous sessions, we try to be intentionally be as open as possible, so you will have all the options to connect to other sources, because the world is changing so fast, so why close the doors?
That was a very beautiful thought. Let's jump to the user questions. I mean the attendee questions. Let's see what questions you have regarding what you have seen. Okay, I use the 2014 version. Can I test the 2018 version? Short answer is yes. Long answer, I'll tell you in a second.
Okay.
Another question. I'm used to the old interface. Can I still use that one?
Yeah.
Good question.
Well, for that, let me open ARCHLine. Well, yes, if you use the previous versions of ARCHLine, you will find a big difference, mostly at the top of the interface. If you would like to make changes and go and change it from ribbon to the classic, you can do that here. So you just click in the options, user interface, and from ribbon to classic, and you need to restart the software from that point on. It works just as before.
I see. I think the next question is regarding is like the addition to the object libraries, what we just discussed. Can I use my Revit files?
Yes, you can. We actually have a video about that.
Yes, we will paste it in the description or above
yes,
me.
Actually, many cases you will find lots of objects and details and items in Revit files. You can just simply go there and use the file and import option. This is where you can find it. You just import it, and then from that point on it works as the same as other items. The big difference here that you can easily turn these into real doors or windows or other type of items, also objects. So we have a built-in tool. We have something called the editor mode or the editor mode, where you can focus on disassembling things and assembling them and turn them into something new.
Just to make it even more,
yes,
seamless and making sure that you can use your existing data. That's something that we are keep emphasizing.
I think we will cover this in another session.
Yes. Yes, that's what we wanted to show you regarding the features of ARCHLine.XP 2018. Again, this was a very short sneak peek into some of the features. For the complete list, you can visit our website. And now to answer the first question that has been asked from you
the test,
about the test. Now, ARCHLine.XP 2018 would launch on the first week of March. You can apply for a beta license at info@archlinexp.com. Now, it doesn't matter what kind of license you currently have with us, or if you have a license at all. You can all apply for a beta license before the official launch, of course.
Yeah.
That's all we wanted to share with you right now. Hope to see you next time for the next webinar. Until then, take care and have great designs with the software. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. Goodbye, all.
Bye.